and welcome back to the CCSN podcast. I'm Chris here with Chase. Chase, how you doing today?
I'm doing awesome. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. Well, we had a full week of NFL games, and it was fantastic to have back, if I can say so myself. There's nothing like watching an NFL football game, and I just get the feeling that Christmas Day feeling every single opening week. So it just felt great. There were some good things, there were some bad things. Tell me what you liked, tell me what you didn't like. Start it all.
What I didn't like, I want to get that out of the way real quick, is everybody overreacting to one game in particular. And it was the 49ers and the Chicago Bears game. I will not take anything away from that game. Just look at the conditions that it was played on. Before the rain even started, the lines were squiggly like that. I don't know if anybody, I'm sure everybody saw that post when it came out before the game. The lines were literally not straight on the field. So that's the first thing. I feel like that was kind of rushed, obviously. And after that, you had the monsoon on the field. Trey Lance, the way Kyle Shanahan was playing that game, they were never going to let him actually do anything. He did not throw any real passes. It was all just trying to run the ball and trying to get out of that game with a W. And the issue was they kind of underestimated the Chicago Bears a little bit. But like I said, I'm not taking anything away from that game. And people are overreacting, saying Trey Lance is a bust and stuff like that. Come on.
Yeah, that's just stupid. I mean, if you think Trey Lance is a bust after playing one game and literally a monsoon, without George Kittle, I mean, I don't take anything you say seriously. I mean, as you said last time, Kyle Shanahan kind of came into this game automatically thinking it was a win, which, you can never do, especially in week one and with a new head coach. And the Bears kind of seem to have a good mojo going on right now. I mean, I feel like they needed that locker room switch, and that was something good to look forward to. And if I was a Bears fan, not really this season, I still don't think they're anything. But next few years, I could definitely see them making, if they stay on the right path,
like we said,
some good
They
noise.
have a lot of money this offseason.
Yeah.
A lot of money and a lot of capital this offseason. It's a disgusting roster this year, but if you can just get a couple players to look good, and they had a couple guys. Like I said, not taking anything away from this game, but to take something away from this game, the Bears had some decent players out there, especially on defense. Eddie Jackson,
secondary looked different.
Jaquan Brisker is one of the best players in this draft class. He should not have gone in the second round. Jaquan Brisker is going to be one of the top tier safeties in the league, and that's a guy that they got basically nothing. So there are some positives on that team, like you were saying.
Yeah, and they're really young, a lot of their positives, so that's definitely something to look at too. But I'm kind of done talking about the Bears game, 49ers game. It wasn't really that. It wasn't that fun. It was kind of the one last thing I'll say. It was kind of fun to look at the players literally diving into the rain puddles, kind of for fun. Which I thought was kind of
Justin
funny.
Fields, the starting quarterback, just doing a Superman through the rain, going 20 yards. That's awesome. That's great for the sport. Great for
that was awesome. That was fun to watch. One other thing that I just want to talk about is in the Ravens and the Jets game. If you look at the score, it was 24-9, and you're kind of just like, oh, Jets, what else would I expect? That defense actually looked pretty good most of the game. But the one thing that I have to give to them is you're going to get gassed if every single drive your offense goes out there, they cannot convert on the third down. And it's funny when I say that, because Joe Flacco threw the ball 60 times.
For 37 completions.
Yeah,
and they were 2 for 15 on third down. So that really tells you what that 37 for 60 actually was.
Yeah, so I mean, it was a joke. I'm not judging the Jets yet. I have to see what they can do with Zach Wilson. And if I'm being honest right now, if I was a Jets fan, I'd be praying for Mike White season, because Joe Flacco literally just looked like an old man out there who can't do anything anymore. I really like the running back duo, though. He's not good, but I'd try to switch it up, if I'm being honest. I mean, I love Michael Carter, and I love Breece Hall. I think that's going to be a really good duo down the line. And their wide receiver weapons, everybody got the ball, which was really nice. Garrett Wilson literally looked so shifty out there. I don't know if you saw that one play where he made nothing into something, but he was 1 yard short, and he celebrated he just scored a touchdown. But it was still pretty cool. I mean, I would have been excited too, but that was just one of my takeaways. I think everybody was just like LOL Jets, kind of like LOL Mets, but it wasn't really that bad. I mean, they definitely lost, but
the Ravens are a good team. They hung in there with the Ravens for the majority of the game. The Ravens are a good team, and they did this without their starting quarterback. So yeah, there are things that you can like about the Jets. I like Elijah Moore. Like we were talking about the receiving group. I like every single player in that group. Garrett Wilson, Elijah Moore, and Corey Davis. Those are three players that I think are very, very good players. Two of them with very high upside. So there are things to like about the Jets. Who was
Braxton Berrios.
Braxton Berrios, yeah.
It's my man.
All right. Cool. He's a Patriot by next year, but there are some things to take away from that game. But at the end of the day, they scored 9 points. They threw the ball 60 times. And when it came down to the big plays, they weren't able to convert. On third and short, third and whatever, they weren't able to convert. That's part of the quarterback, but that's also play calling there. Like on 3rd and 1, you have to convert that. I don't care how you do it. You can do it with Joe Flacco, or you can do it with Zach Wilson, which honestly, I don't know how much of a difference there is between those two quarterbacks at this point in time. Just because of the way that just because of how raw Zach Wilson is, we'll see. I have not seen anything from Zach Wilson to tell me that he's any better than Joe Flacco and that he'll be better when he gets back. So I'd be a little bit nervous if you got Zach Wilson throwing the ball 60 times, because I don't think he's completing 37 of those. And I think some of those are going to the other team.
Yeah, Zach Wilson's biggest issue last year, when I looked back on tape, is he was always trying to play hero ball. And once he realizes the NFL is not that, you have to just make the play and know how to keep pace in the game. I think he could really develop into a really good quarterback. But another thing is, I don't really like Robert Saleh that much, if I'm being quite honest. I think it's going to take an offensive-minded head coach to really deal with Zach Wilson. And I like Saleh, but I just don't really know if he's the guy for this team, if that makes sense.
Zach Wilson doesn't put as much air under the ball as you would expect somebody who has the strongest arm in NFL history to do. He's thrown the hardest ball in NFL history. I think it was like 98 miles an hour. But he doesn't put loft under the ball on the deep balls. They routinely come up short. And you see that with guys like Carson Wentz. When they throw the deep ball and it comes up short, you'll get some DPIs, but you'll also get into some trouble with some turnovers and some balls that you've got a guy deep and you've got the arm talent to reach them, but you just I don't know what it is. You're just not putting enough air under it, not enough touch, just trying to fire it in there sometimes. And that's something that I see with Zach Wilson that really scares me. Well, I think you're right about the Robert Saleh thing. He's a great defensive coach, but a guy like Zach Wilson is going to need an offensive-minded guy that can teach him that kind of stuff, that can kind of work that into him. And they've got Shanahan as their offensive coordinator. I mean, anybody from that family, you're all right as far as offensive minded goes. But there's going to be a lot to work on with Zach Wilson, and I'm not really ready to say the Jets are on a path that's any different from what we've seen from the Jets in recent history.
Yeah, I just think their defense can be a lot better this year. I think Sauce Gardner and DJ Reed are going to be a really good duo.
They had a decent defense last year. Like, it wasn't a terrible defense.
It was decent, but they got a lot better. And they were hurt last year too.
I'm a huge Sauce fan. Sauce is great.
He was pretty good actually too. So I mean, Jets fans definitely
he was incredible. One catch in his debut game. They targeted him in the end zone. He had a great pass breakup on, was it Duvernay? I don't think it was. It was one of the receivers. Great pass breakup. Some people were calling for DPI. Nah, that's locks. Sauce Gardner. He is great, and he's going to be kind of like a shadow imitation of Revis in a way, where he's just on one side of the field, nothing's happening. So, yeah, there are some cool things about the Jets, but I'll still stand on my point about Zach Wilson.
Speaking about Duvernay, the boy had like three touchdowns that game, or two. I mean, but like he looked great. I mean, I think
those were his only 2 catches though.
I mean, hey, they counted at the best time though. So I mean, I would have definitely went home happy if I was him. But that was just really cool. I still think the Ravens. I still think the Ravens have to. They still got to show me a little something more on offense. One thing I did notice about Lamar Jackson though, he looked a lot better in the pocket. I mean, like I always think he looked. I never think he looked bad in the pocket, but he looked great. And he wasn't, going immediately to go rush. And I think he rushed the ball 2 times, if I'm not mistaken, which is kind of incredible, especially with a guy like that. Everyone's like running back, but made some good throws. And that second half, he looked really good too.
I think that's more a product of him not being extended yet and not willing to put his body on the line without a contract extension. Lamar Jackson not rushing, it did work, but it's also the Jets. Lamar Jackson not rushing to me kind of feels like hampers his ability. I love what he does in the pocket and what he does with his arm. He's got an incredible arm, but the rushing part of the game, you see Patrick Mahomes do it. You see Josh Allen do it. You see the top quarterbacks do it, and there's a reason for that. Now, I'm not going to overreact to one game where he only rushed 2 times, but if this becomes a consistent theme throughout the season, I might be able to draw that conclusion that, yeah, he's not rushing because he wants that extension, and that's a right thing to do for him, I think.
Yeah, I would do the same thing too. If I wasn't getting my $40 million a year yet, like every other quarterback who's proved that they're really good in this league, why would you do that? I mean,
imagine an RG3 level injury for Lamar Jackson this year.
Exactly.
Knock on wood, but like that would be catastrophic for the guy.
He would lose millions and millions of dollars. So I do not believe
him for generational wealth right now. Generational wealth is just right around the corner for him if he could just make it through this season healthy. I'm sure he knows that.
He knows what he's doing. He's playing the game smart. I mean, he already commented right after the game. Every question to him was about the contract extension. He was like, guys, I'm not trying to seem like a dick, but he was like, I'm not talking about it anymore. Like, I'm focused on Miami, and that's what I'm doing. So, I mean, good for him. I he's still going to get the question literally every single press conference, but
of course,
he's sticking to his guns, and you got to respect that. Another game that I just wanted to talk about was the Packers versus the Vikings, because we talked about this last time. We said Vikings were going to win, Packers were going to look sloppy, and that's exactly what happened. I mean, Aaron Rodgers literally looked like he was going to retire at the end of this year. He was so pissed off, but they were definitely hurt still. So everyone overreacting to the Packers, I think, is a little stupid, but they definitely need help there at the wide receiver position. There's nothing about that. They definitely do need help. And I think if they can go out there and get a guy like OBJ, like you got to do it. And I think OBJ is going to be a Bill or a Ram though.
Yeah, he's just ring chasing again. That's all he's doing.
I don't blame
him at all. No,
it's
cool. He's a cool guy. He should be on winning teams, and like that's how he saves his legacy, because he was on track to be one of the greatest receivers of all time, and then he went to Cleveland, and he just he had Baker as his quarterback, and he had. I am not as big of a Stefanski guy as most people, so I'll say Stefanski as his head coach, but that's a topic for another time. But like he was on that track, and now he's got to do something to kind of save his legacy, because Odell, he was the guy in 2016. Start going to 2019, 2020, he was getting trashed so much on the internet. And for a guy that spends a lot of his time on the internet, he's one of the biggest social media presences in the league. That's got to get to him a little bit. I'm sure he sees it. So now we're starting to see Odell try and have the second phase of his career where maybe he's not this dominant X receiver, but he's helping teams win. At least that's what it looks like on paper. Because, he just went to the Rams, who he was putting up 40, 30 yards a game, but the Rams were a great team before they got him. The Rams are a better team after they got him, so he helped them win, That's the kind of thing that's helping his career.
In 8 games in the regular season last year, he had like close to 400 yards. He had 5 touchdowns. In the playoffs, he was great too. He had close to, I think it was 300 something yards, and he had 2 touchdowns, and he tore his ACL in the Super Bowl, and he looked like he was on pace to win Super Bowl MVP. So he definitely still has a lot left in the tank. He definitely can still be a great wide receiver in this league. And I'm happy that he proved everyone wrong, that he was this diva that nobody wanted in the locker room, which literally, like, it's kind of funny though, because you would ask, they would go and ask other players, like, is he a diva? Like, does he suck? Blah, blah, blah. And they were like, no,
he's our favorite player.
Great.
He's
like, everybody loved him.
Yeah.
And like, even when Baker got traded, like, he was the number 1 guy to be like, go out there and ball. And like, I do think he probably doesn't like Baker Mayfield, but
probably not.
He's still a good guy. And that's not really football related. He's probably just like, I want to see you succeed. I don't think they really had any like beef, but I feel like they had like football beef, not off the field beef. So that's totally different.
Yeah, I'll always love OBJ. OBJ is one of my favorite players. He's like my childhood. He's got the same birthday as me. Like, he's just the guy. Me and OBJ were the same,
Yeah, he's the man. He's the man. You're the man. Speaking of another wide receiver who went to Cleveland and looked like shit, and then they left, and he actually looks pretty good again. Jarvis Landry.
That's the next one in line.
Amari's going to be the next one. What did he do last week? I didn't even look.
I didn't check either. It wasn't.
But
I know Jacoby Brissett only had like 150 yards, so it wasn't much.
yeah, so I mean, that's going to be all Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb until I guess Deshaun Watson gets back. But anyway, speaking about Jarvis, the dude looked great. I mean, he had the most receiving yards in a Saints debut, and then Michael Thomas had 2 touchdowns in his return, or was it one? It was two, right?
Two.
Yeah. So I mean, like the dude looked great, and he had them both on AJ Terrell. So it's definitely
Yep.
saying something. And Saints got weapons, man. Alvin Kamara did not look that great though. He looked a little slow.
I actually think that the Saints don't have that many weapons. I'm not as high on Jarvis Landry as people seem to be after the week 1 overreaction because he was being guarded by the Falcons' second cornerback. That's all I'm going to put out there. And yeah, he had a good game, yards wise. Okay, we'll see what's going forward from Jarvis Landry. He's still incredibly slow, one of the slowest wide receivers in the league. He doesn't make fast cuts, obviously, because he's slow. And the hands are really all that's there for him. And that's what we saw in week 1. I don't know if we're going to be able to see that going forward. Michael Thomas, he's a guy we're relying on to stay healthy. He's great when he plays. I'm not going to put too much stock into that. Alvin Kamara, Mark Ingram backfield, that does not look great right now, especially with how Alvin Kamara looked week 1. Mark Ingram fumbled the ball. That does not look like a backfield I want to trust. And believe me, I have Alvin Kamara in fantasy. I'm a little worried right now. So, and then you've got what? Adam Troutman at tight end. The only real consistent.
Taysom Hill.
Okay, shut up. I don't want to hear any Taysom Hill talk anymore. Not once. This is 2022. This is not happening yet. The only consistent. I don't care. He will never touch the field for the next 3 weeks. I don't care about Taysom Hill. Chris Olave is the only consistent weapon, in my opinion, on that team because I feel like he's going to be a guy that will be healthy, and I trust the talent all year. And there's no other guy that I have that mix of on that team.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest. Chris Olave, I think, is a little overrated, to be honest. I think.
Well, he shouldn't have gone number 12 overall. That's the only reason he's overrated.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to be that good this year, to be honest. I think he's going to show flashes, but I don't think he's going to be, like a Jalen Waddle type season or anything like that.
He was drafted to be the most ready rookie receiver. Yeah, like the Saints took him this high, not because he was the best, like the guy that was going to show flashes. It's because they're trying to win right now, and he's the guy that's going to produce for them right now. And they have just a way of making Ohio State players look great right out of the gate. Like, they just do it. And I know he scored the 2 touchdowns, but it doesn't feel like Jameis Winston targets Michael Thomas the same way that Drew Brees did. And same thing with Alvin Kamara. So the Saints offense is going to look a little bit different, especially now that there's no Sean Payton. So there's going to be kind of a new era of the Saints offense. Olave.
I think Michael Thomas is going to be a big red zone target for them. I think that's what's going to be his big role.
But then who's the field stretcher? Because it's not Jarvis Landry.
Yeah,
it's not Adam Troutman.
I think they're going to mix it up, to be honest. That's what I think Jameis is going to do.
He drafted Chris Olave to do that. That is what his job is. He is their deep threat this year.
Yeah, I think he's going to be good, but I don't know. I'm just not as high on him as I guess you are. I think Garrett Wilson clears him still.
Well, he's also sitting on my fantasy bench, so.
I mean, if we're talking about our favorite rookie wide receivers, I think Jahan Dotson's going to be really good.
Yeah, right, sure. I think he's going to be really good. Kyle Phillips is the best rookie wide receiver. Titan slot receiver.
Okay. I mean, yeah. Okay. It's the Giants.
Just Titans.
I mean, it's the Giants they played against.
Doesn't matter. I don't care. I've been saying this, or I've been saying it much, but I've been a Kyle Phillips fan for a while. 6 catches, 10 targets his debut. We got 70 yards. Give it to me.
I think Drake London.
He looks very good too, and Drake London's incredible.
So I think Drake London might be. I think he's kind of underrated because he went to the Falcons, and like no one really talks about the Falcons right now. And I think if he went to, go ahead.
It's going to be a very similar situation to Kyle Pitts last year, where he's going to put up a lot of yards and he's going to be very good and very talented, but he's not going to score a lot of touchdowns because that offense isn't going to get near the red zone nearly enough. Not with Mariota or Ritter at quarterback, and not with that offensive line. And he's kind of going to not waste, but it's going to go a little bit under the radar his first year of his career, where I feel like Drake London's one of those talents where if you were to put him onto a team like Jamar Chase did with the Bengals last year, where he's got a quarterback, he would absolutely light the league on fire. he would put up 1,500, 1,600 yards at 12, 13 touchdowns. I mean, look at how he ended his career at USC. 100 yards and a touchdown every game. Every single game, he's that guy. And it's because he had a quarterback there that he could trust, and he was on a good offense. So I think we're going to get a very good version of Drake London, but we're probably going to get robbed of this. Really could be the best Drake London that we see, and he's not statistically not going to put up those numbers.
When you say something like that, I think it just proves that I think the Packers, they had 2 first-round picks. They should have made something happen, if I'm being quite honest. I think this guy in an Aaron Rodgers-led offense, like, it would have been phenomenal. And as you just said, I think he could have had a Jamar Chase type of season with Aaron Rodgers. I think Drake London has everything. He's a big body, he has good hands. He has a good release. Like, it's everything you could ask for. And as I said, like, no one's really talking about him since he's on, like, just one of the most irrelevant teams in football right now.
Yeah, it's kind of feels like it's going to be similar, not exactly, but in a way, probably a little bit worse than the A.J. Brown situation, which I kind of could put this into both, because I feel like a guy like A.J. Brown, like that kind of a move was what the Packers should have been doing. They had the assets to go make that move, and they didn't go do it. We see how it paid off for the Eagles, but at the beginning of A.J. Brown's career, he wasn't putting up the stats that we know that he really should have been putting up. A.J. Brown, for a while, has been a top 5, top 10 wide receiver talent in the league, but he was on the Titans, who didn't run the ball very much, who had Tannehill, who was the complete worst type of quarterback for a guy like A.J. Brown to have. So we saw A.J. Brown, and we all knew A.J. Brown was great, but he was only putting up barely 1,000 yards. And we say barely 1,000 yards, but this is the kind of talent that should be putting up 1,500, 1,600 yards, but we're not seeing that because of situation. And a lot of times I think you just got to take note of that and then keep it in mind for future situations like this Drake London situation. And on the other side of it, like the Packers, who should have gone and made that kind of a move for a guy like that. Like the perfect guy that I think the Packers could have done, maybe Terry McLaurin, DK Metcalf, there was so many names available at this deadline or at this offseason extension because of the wide receiver market. And the Packers just said, we're going to stick and draft Christian Watson. Now, I like Christian Watson a decent amount, but we are not going to see any version of Aaron Rodgers like working with a rookie wide receiver. It's never happened in his 12 years or I think it's more than that, 14 years as a quarterback of the Green Bay Packers. He's had plenty of rookie wide receivers. Even Devontae Adams wasn't able to make it work with Aaron Rodgers as a rookie. It just doesn't work. And this is a team that's trying to compete. You just signed Aaron Rodgers to $50 million a year. Now what? You're stuck.
I think the Packers are never, ever going to learn. They're never going to go out and give up assets for a wide receiver one. I mean, it's just pretty evident. I mean, if they wanted to, they definitely could have. They had the assets to do it, and they just didn't want to. As you said, they were like, we're going to stick with our guns. We're going to draft defense like we do every single year. We're going to have a really good defense. And then as come playoff time, I mean, I think they're going to make the playoffs. I think they're going to be a wild card. I think Minnesota is the better team in that division. But I don't see anything happening come playoff time. I think they're going to know the game plan. It's going to be attack the run, and they'll probably have a wide receiver one by the playoffs, obviously, but it's hard to tell. I mean, coming into the season, really having no idea with Aaron Rodgers at, how is he now, 37 or 38 years old? Like,
he's older than that. He's like 39, probably close to 40.
Yeah. I mean, like, that's not what you want. And that's not what Aaron Rodgers wants. I mean, he's getting paid $50 million, so I guess he's not complaining that much, but they should have made something happen. Especially, that's the one thing with the Packers, that they don't have like an owner. So, I mean, like, it's kind of harder for teams like that to do something like that, I guess. Because there's no one really up front saying, like, I want this to happen, like, make it happen. And I feel like a lot of the best teams in the league have an owner who are kind of, other than the Cowboys, who are like really involved in their team, and they're like, I want this to happen. Please make it happen. Let's get it rolling. So, I mean, that's definitely something to consider.
I was just thinking the Packers play the game a little bit differently than everybody else. They're not always going for the Super Bowl, it feels like. They're going to win as many games as possible in the regular season, or just as many games as possible. Like, it's not like, yeah, we're going to do everything to win this Super Bowl. Nothing else matters. The Packers are like, every single game matters a lot. So that's kind of the philosophy that they build their team with. And that, like you were saying, it comes down to not having an owner. Like, an owner at the start of the year is usually the guy that's like, this is a championship team. I fully believe in this team, so we're going all in. Because it really takes somebody to fully believe in the team to go all in. And there's nobody in the building for the Packers that's doing that because it's a public business. That's how they run it, which is a little strange, but it's worked fairly well for as long as it has, although they have had Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers for 40 years. But
and won or not with Aaron Rodgers, he won one, but two with Brett Favre, I guess. But I'm just counting Aaron Rodgers.
a lot of regular season games, so that's kind of like their way of doing this, and that's the price you have to pay for not having that voice at the top, and that goes both ways because you have, like you were saying, Jerry Jones is the voice at the top, Shad Khan is the voice at the top for these teams, and it doesn't work. You got to have the right voice, but.
I mean, speaking about Jerry Jones, I mean, I think the Cowboys they're in like one of the worst situations in football right now. I mean, Jerry Jones refuses to fire his little butler, Mike McCarthy, who just listens to everything he says. Mike McCarthy literally called out Kellen Moore today in a press conference, says Kellen Moore needs to be smarter. He needs to be a better play caller. He needs to do this,
he's right about that.
He is
Kellen
right,
Moore
but
sucks.
I wouldn't say that.
No.
Especially after losing Dak Prescott to the media. That is not what you do. And I think Mike McCarthy's not good either, though. So it's kind of just like the pot calling the kettle black, in my opinion. I think if Jerry Jones was smart, the number one thing that this guy would do is go out there and say, not go out there. He'd literally call both of them into the office, say, you're done, and figure something out. Because I think you're going to waste this season no matter what. I don't think there's any quarterback you could bring in right now, especially that's going to help you win a lot of games. I think Dallas looked even shitty with Dak Prescott on the field. I mean, they scored 3 points the entire game. They were the only team in the league to not score a touchdown. And who's going to fix? Is that Cam Newton going to fix that? Is Jimmy Garoppolo going to fix that for a first-round pick or a second-round pick? No. And if I was Jerry Jones, I would just say, listen, like, we're not going to be good this year. Let's start it over, you know? They're wasting a year of Micah Parsons, though, which kind of sucks for them.
Micah Parsons, he's him. He is probably – and they don't even know how to use him yet. Like, I don't know if he doesn't know how to play. Like, well, obviously. Like, I don't know if he doesn't know what role he should be playing or the Dallas defense doesn't. But he should not be splitting snaps 50-50 off ball and on the edge. He is one of the most dominant edge rushers in the league, which is much more valuable than an off-ball linebacker. And he's a fairly just above average off-ball linebacker. But he's so good off the edge. Just play him there full time. They have a need at the edge. They just brought in so many linebackers. Like, I can name probably 5 or 6 Dallas Cowboys linebackers. That's how much they invest in that position. But yet they still play Micah Parsons there half the time. Let him stay on the edge. Let him rush the quarterback. He'll probably give you 25 sacks in a season. He's that kind of a talent. And they're not doing that for him yet. But I don't know that they're in the worst position in football because we said that last week they were probably going to make that move and trade a first for Jimmy Garoppolo or do something to get a quarterback. I think that from the way that Jerry Jones is talking, they're not going to do anything. They're rushing Dak Prescott. Not even that, they're just rushing Dak Prescott back so fast. They want him back in 3 weeks from this injury.
Yeah,
and that is the way to tank your season completely. Bringing back a quarterback hurt and not filling in for that quarterback with anybody that's viable for the next few games. So he's going to come back probably down 0-4 on the season, trying to make it back with this Cowboys team with an offense that was already questionable, with a $20 million running back who you're not really giving the ball to that much. You've got a better guy behind him, but you've got an owner who has personnel decision or who has control over personnel decisions, who's not letting that happen because he's paying the running back $20 million. There's a lot of huge holes on Dallas. And while they might not be in the worst position in football, because I think that a lot of that can be changed by just firing Mike McCarthy, Kellen Moore, and maybe promoting Dan Quinn from defensive coordinator to head coach, who's been incredible.
I still think he's a good head coach.
Maybe not. I mean, he was loved in Atlanta. He took them to a Super Bowl. He was given a really shit roster for the last few years of his career. So that I don't blame that much on him, and he's been great in his tenure with the Cowboys. I think giving him a promotion would probably be a little bit better than what they have right now. So I feel like there are some things to take away. You've got a generational superstar in Micah Parsons. You've got a guy like CeeDee Lamb, who's an insanely talented weapon. Your issue at running back is that you have a cheaper running back that's better. So there's a very obvious solution to that issue, but they've just got to man up and do it. So like there are a lot of holes on this team, but there's a very clear path out of it, in my opinion.
Yeah, but I'm saying for a team right now who's going into the year as, we're going to win the Super Bowl, we're a contender. And I know that's the thing with the Cowboys every year, but this team was looking to be a contender, not a team contending for a top 5 pick again, top 7 pick again. They're going to be in the same boat that they were a few years ago. They're going to have to pay Trayvon Diggs, who they're going to pay, and I think they're going to overpay. And if he's a free agent, not this year, not the upcoming year, but the year after, they're going to have to pay Micah Parsons soon. They're going to have to pay CeeDee Lamb soon. I don't think they're really going to have to pay Tony Pollard. They might have to pay Dalton Schultz soon if he's good.
Was Diggs a first-round pick?
He was. I don't know, to be honest. He was early.
If he was, he'll have an extra year on the contract with an option. So that could save the Cowboys a little bit of time evaluating.
Second round.
Then okay, nope.
Yeah,
that's going to be big
2 years
because they're only going to have this 2-year period to evaluate him, and that 11 pick season is going to very much skew the results. So while these next 2 seasons might not be great, and looking at Trayvon Diggs and the way he plays, they probably won't be great. He'll probably give up a lot of yards, and he won't match that same turnover production again. You're still going to have to take into account those 11 turnovers in this year and being an all-pro when you pay him. And like you're saying, that's going to be a lot of money for a guy that's not worth anywhere near that kind of money.
And that's literally 3 players that I think are going to be asking for max money right there. And they're just going to always be in the same hole. I think they're going to end up trading one of them like they traded Amari Cooper, and the cycle is just going to continue. I mean, what did they give Michael Gallup? They extended him, but was it 1-year deal or 2-year deal?
I don't know. Maybe I'm tripping here. I thought it was 4-year, $40 million.
It might have been something like that. I mean, I think it was a pretty good deal, but
I think it was $10 million a year. I don't know if it was 4 years, but I feel like it was a fairly substantial contract to give to Michael Gallup, especially coming off.
Michael Gallup got a 5-year, $63 million contract.
They paid him 5 years off of an ACL.
Yeah, so as I'm saying, I just think Dallas is in a terrible situation. Like, they are just paying players, and they just don't have a good route. They just don't, and like it's gonna just backfire. I mean, how many years does Dak have on his contract after this year?
Like 4. I think he signed. Was it a 5-year 200 or a 4-year 200? It was a 5-year 200, so he's got 4 years left.
Yeah, so I mean, I feel like they're going to have to mix up this roster. They're going to have to get a new offensive coordinator, a new head coach. They're going to have to pick between a few players. They got a lot of decision-making to do, and I just don't think Jerry Jones is going to make the right choices. As I said, he's always going to want somebody who can kind of be like his puppet down there and listens to whatever he said. That's why he doesn't work with good head coaches in Dallas. He always has a Jason Garrett, and then he goes to Mike McCarthy, 2 guys who he says what to do, and they'll do it. And that's just what it is. And that's never going to work in Dallas. I don't care if you win 12 games in the regular season. Every single real NFL fan knew that team was not good last year, and the 49ers proved it in the playoffs. And I think that is the best that we will see from this Cowboys, from this team of Cowboys. I don't think they do anything else. It's gonna take a lot of self-reflecting for the Dallas Cowboys. It's kind of like an essay in high school. They're gonna have to sit down. They're gonna have to self-reflect on what they've done and what they need to do to fix themselves.
Yeah, well, I still feel like there's a fairly easy way to get out of this. You just trade DeMarcus Lawrence. You trade Zeke. You get rid of those expensive contracts that aren't doing much for you. You take the bite for 1 year. But the thing is, the guy you're asking to do that is Jerry Jones. And Jerry Jones will just never change the way he is. He is who he is. And that's a trend you see with a lot of old people like that. They just don't want to change. And Jerry Jones, he fits that stereotype to a T. So I feel like Jerry Jones is going to start as if he hasn't already. But the Cowboys are going to start going down if they don't make those decisions.
I mean, with a guy even like DeMarcus Lawrence, the dude literally has not been good since like 2018. And like you'll still see people calling him like top 10 at his position, like, which is just ridiculous. So like he hasn't been that good for since 2018. You know, he hasn't really made that much noise, or he's injured, or he just looks not like a superstar.
And on top of that, he has one of the most embarrassing statistics against like a division rival like ever. He's played the Philadelphia Eagles close to like 30 times in his career, and he has 1 sack against them. And it's just the Lane Johnson DeMarcus Lawrence matchup that was supposed to be hyped up to be this incredible like rivalry. It's been very, very one-sided.
Lane Johnson is him. He's so underrated.
He's very good. He's I think the stat was he hasn't given up a sack since November 11th, 2020, which is a very long time. Yeah, he's good.
It's just injuries with Lane Johnson, though. To be honest, I think a lot more people other than Eagles fans would be talking about him if he wasn't on the field like every other game. And I love Lane Johnson, but it's kind of true. It's gotten better though recently. Another guy though, this just kind of popped in my head. We're talking about like offensive linemen and dominating the Cowboys was Brandon Brooks. I mean, this dude, like, he was phenomenal, and he's one of those guys where it just sucks like that injuries got the best of him because, you know, he had to retire early. I think he was only like 31, 32, and for an offensive lineman, that's not terrible. I mean, I think you can still get 2 good years out of it, but that's just another name I was thinking of.
Yeah, Brandon Brooks, he's a very underrated player because he wasn't great at the beginning, but there was about a 2-3 year period where he was the best lineman in the league. Just
that's the
hands
Eagles
down.
offensive line coach for you.
Jeff Stoutland, one of the best coaches in the league. Alabama has been trying to pry him away for the better part of a decade now. Jeff Stoutland, if you know football and you don't know that name, you need to know it. That's all I got to say.
I wonder how much like Alabama or like these colleges, like the big names like LSU, Notre Dame, like have kind of offered him because college money is so big now. Like,
yeah,
I feel like
Brian Kelly just got a John Gruden deal. He got the 10 years, $100 million. So if you're giving Brian Kelly that money, how much is a guy that's actually good at his job getting?
I think Brian Kelly, that was like the funniest big contract. It's not extension signing like ever. Like I never was a Brian Kelly fan, and you know the thing is, a lot of like. He's like an old person coach. Like old people love that side.
Yeah.
Oh, I love the culture that Brian Kelly brings along. Like, all right, relax. Like, I've never been a Brian Kelly guy, and LSU had their magical run, and then it's kind of crazy though how the downfall of LSU, like literally like 1 year.
Fired Coach O the next year. The next year, dude. That is insane to me. Literally,
Coach O's living though. Coach O's
yeah.
having a great life. He's the man.
I love the guy, but the fact that he's no longer coaching at LSU just feels weird to me. But as soon as the Brian Kelly videos with the players that he was recruiting came out, where like the camera was spinning around them in the room, and he was like dancing behind the player and like getting like way too close to the player, I knew they were gonna be bad. Like that was just very awkward and something that good teams don't do. I don't care that it has nothing to do with football. Your coach being that close up on you and like dancing behind you, and you could see it in the players' faces. They were not comfortable in this situation. That was not a good way to start. And that was how he started off his LSU tenure. So not a huge fan of that Gruden level 10-year, $100 million contract for him, but that's about my extent of knowledge for college football.
I mean, Notre Dame looks pretty bad right now too. They just paid I think it was Marshall, they paid him $2 million to lose, which was pretty funny. So it comes back to bite you. I've never been a Notre Dame guy though. I feel like they're a bunch of pussies for playing in they're not in a division. They're on their own. They're a lone wolf. But because I'll never respect them. But yeah, I mean the NFL this week was pretty good, pretty bad. My favorite moment, though, not my favorite moment, the guy I felt the best for was the Cleveland Browns kicker, Cam, or York, because I think that was great. Like, imagine being a rookie and that's how you end your first game, 60-yard friggin' field goal to win it against Baker. Like, and just the whole storyline. That was great for him.
I love it for him. I can't find it in my heart to root for the Browns at all. Just anything that happens for the Browns, it's positive. I'm like, fuck these guys. Fucking assholes. You don't deserve this. You don't deserve to beat the Panthers by 2 points.
Yes. I mean, another funny quote after that game was Baker Mayfield literally was like, everybody was making this seem like it was a Super Bowl, and I was like, you were doing the same
You
thing,
did it.
Baker.
Like
Yeah,
you did
like
it, Baker.
you were
Said you were gonna
putting the
kick their
shirts
ass.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nah. All right. Like that. Baker was. I like him. He's like a top 20 quarterback, top 25. But people that think he's a franchise guy, they're taking it a little far. And
I mean,
the Panthers
come
fans
on.
seem to be doing that. And somebody else in that game that I wanted to talk about was Kevin McQuarrie. I know it was his rookie debut, but Jesus, man. Miles Garrett ate him alive. And it's
Two
Miles Garrett.
sacks.
It's
Like,
Miles
he's an
Garrett, but
animal.
like it wasn't even just the sacks because one of the sacks was kind of just a kind of a scheduled pressure, but every play like this, he didn't look good as a tackle just in general. His footwork was off, his hand placement was off. He's a huge project, and yes, the athleticism that he showed in his college tape, it's all still there. He didn't get any less athletic, but look at the guy that he was compared to, Mekhi Becton. What's Mekhi Becton doing today?
Sitting on the couch.
Exactly. Mekhi Becton's doing absolutely nothing. So these guys, they can turn out to be these great players, but they also could turn out to be really, really bad. And that kind of game one against Miles Garrett, but that's what we saw from Ikem Ekwonu yesterday. And for a team that right now, you want some positive signs, especially because you only had one pick in the top 3 rounds. You're not getting that. Like, not from Ekwonu. And I don't know. Wasn't my favorite pick at the time. He's a fine player. Panthers needed something else. There's a lot more on the team that they need.
I mean, yeah, the Panthers are just a complete dumpster fire right now, right from general management all the way down. I feel bad for Panthers fans. I feel like they're just like, they just have no direction. They have some good pieces, but like where they're supposed to have like the best pieces, the most important, especially like head coach too. It's just not there. So I mean,
what do you do with
they'll
Matt
never be
Corral?
real.
They just had 2 third-round picks on Matt Corral. Now he's out for the season. You will not be able to see Matt Corral this season. They're probably going to finish close to the bottom of the league this year. I'd say not much better than last year where they got the 6th overall pick. I think they sit around the 9th or 10th pick. There are 4 or 5 quarterbacks in this class. Do they draft a quarterback? Or do you just sit there because you have Matt Corral, who you traded 2 third-round picks for? Like what happens to him? Do you just completely get rid of that? Is that capital absolutely nothing to you now? Is he absolutely nothing now? That's something that they're going to have to make a decision on. And it's going to be an entirely new front office making the decision, because I guarantee Matt Rule gets fired after this year. I guarantee the entirety of that front office gets overturned this offseason. So I think that they're eventually going to just Matt Corral is going to be a sacrificial lamb for the Panthers. And it's a damn shame because I'm a Matt Corral fan. He's a cool guy with a cool story. But that kind of an injury as a rookie when you're trying to fight for a job is not going to really go well, especially if the whole coaching staff gets turned over.
Yeah, especially if he didn't look good either. He looked terrible in preseason. I know it's preseason, but he looked awful.
Yeah. But like, I'm kind of like comparing it to a college situation where a lot of times in college, recruits are brought in by a certain coach, but the program just doesn't do well. And they have to overturn the program and get a new coach. Like you got to hire Brian Kelly for 10 years, $100 million, and like that the old quarterback that was brought in by the coach and who had a plan for that guy, that's just not there anymore. And I think that's just really the situation that Matt Corral has found himself in, and it's a shame because I don't know that there's a way that Matt Corral's career actually turns into a positive career where he's a starter anymore.
Yeah, if I'm being honest, I'm really not that high on Matt Corral. I think he's cool, but I never thought he was going to be any franchise quarterback, if I'm being honest. I think the Panthers are a team full of just 4 second-string quarterbacks. And that's really it. 4 backup quarterbacks.
Like a 5th, 6th string.
Yeah, I guess.
XFL quarterback.
Yeah, that's another guy who if we had this podcast back in, what was it, 7th grade or 8th grade, I would have been pretty damn high on Sam Darnold, because after that, I love Sam. I watched that Penn State game where he killed Penn State in the Rose Bowl. I was like, this guy's it. That game was phenomenal. And then, but I was watching his game tape a couple days ago, just out of the blue. He really just looked like he never cared, you know, like he'd get hit or like he'd be on the sideline and like every guy who cares like looks pissed off on the sideline or does not want to be around anybody, does not want to talk to anybody. He always kind of just like has a smile on his face or like, you know, he's after the game, like he's ready to like go to the team dinner. It's never like I want to put in the work, blah, blah, blah. He just never had it. And guys who just don't have that type of mentality in this league, I don't see him succeeding.
He had the
Especially
tools
at the
and all the
quarterback
measurables.
position. Yeah, that's it. Like he had everything he needed. He just never put in like that extra work or had like that. Fuck this! I'm gonna go out there. I'm gonna win this job. I'm gonna be really good. No, he thought he was gonna come into the league. He thought he was gonna dominate, and he didn't.
You know what's the opposite of that? Who a guy that I believed in? Josh
Okay.
Rosen.
Oh,
Yeah. And in all fairness, we said that this was like 7th, 8th grade. There was no actual scouting going on here. The
you
reason
just thought
I
they were
liked,
cool.
well, yes, the reason I liked Josh Rosen was because I saw the one game where they were down like 47 to like 20, and he came back and they scored like 40 points and a half, and he threw the touchdown in overtime to win it, and he walked off the field. He's like, I'm him or whatever. He said some cool shit, and I was like, yeah, you're right. And he was like, oh yeah, there were 10 mistakes in front of me. I was like, yeah, 10 mistakes. That's right. No.
No,
So,
no, Josh. He's on his 5th team now, or is he out of the league? I know he was the Buccaneers
No,
like third string for a while.
He's on the Browns. He's the Browns second string. Yeah.
I thought Kellen Mond was.
No.
That's
well, he's on the team, but he's not their second string.
That's funny. That's just like that's funny.
What was I gonna say? Something about Josh Rosen. Oh yeah, like the thing is, Sam Darnold, he had all the talent or all the measurables, all that, and none of the drive. Josh Rosen, he had all the drive, all that. He had none of the measurables. Just none of it was there. Like if you just watch that guy throw, it's a noodle coming off his arm. Like it's disgusting. There's the ball's a duck flying through the air every time. There's just nothing there. It reminds me a little bit of a worse. He's got the arm of Tim Tebow.
Oh God.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry to Josh Rosen. I mean, you're a good guy, but you got the arm of Tim Tebow.
I'll never see a worse release in the NFL in my life than Tim Tebow's release. It was so bad.
Yeah.
Like that guy, like that. I will always remember like being in 4th grade and like seeing like 5 Tim Tebow jerseys just like running around, and I was just like, oh. And then like the next season he was on the Jets because they had Peyton Manning.
Dude, I never like understood Tim Tebow. I was like, is he like good? Like what is that guy like? Because he's starting quarterback, or he's the starting quarterback for playoff team as I'm watching the game. And I'm like, he's not good though. And like everybody's got a Tim Tebow jersey, but it's not actually good. So I was so he confused me until I like got it. Like he's Tim Tebow.
He's a great he's a college performer. It's just so different. Like you can be
he's
such
more
a
just
great
a performer in general. He's not an athlete. He's just a performer.
Well, he was pretty damn good at Florida, though. You got to give him that. And I would love to watch.
Was he that good at Florida, or was the Florida team that great?
His stats were fantastic, though.
Okay, but that's because that Florida
won a Heisman.
Team was absolutely loaded. Okay,
yeah, he won.
This Heisman.
He was great, though.
Every quarterback on the best team is going to win Heisman. That's how the Heisman Award works, and that's why it's stupid. Like every single year, the Oklahoma quarterback is just going to win. Or last year, you get the Alabama because now they've figured out how to develop quarterbacks, which is kind of terrifying. But like the way the Heisman works is never it's a good player. It's just a guy who puts up crazy numbers because they're on the best team. The only time it's actually when it's a good player is when it's a position player that has that outlier type of season and wins it. And even sometimes with those guys, they end up being busts. So I'm not a Heisman Award fan. That award kind of bothers me. It's very politically driven, and if I had a vote, it would have been Will Anderson last year, and he didn't even get an invite, which is kind of crazy to me.
Well, I'm just saying Tim Tebow's Heisman year. 3,286 passing yards, 895 rushing yards, 32 passing touchdowns, and 25 rushing touchdowns. The man was literally a cheat code.
Yeah, but like that offense was a cheat code. It was Florida. They don't play people. I don't know, man.
They're just playing on coke the whole game.
That's true.
But
look, I don't want to make this like I'm hating on Tebow, but there was never a point in Tebow's career where he was actually talented. He didn't just get to the NFL and lose his talent. There was just never talent there.
I just think
not
there's
as a
always
quarterback. Not as a quarterback,
there's
he's
just
not talented.
it's just crazy. Like the difference between college and NFL is just so different, and I feel like he's just such a prime example of that. Like an average football fan, if you're watching it, you're probably like, this guy's going to be really good in the NFL, and then he comes up to the NFL and he's terrible, and that's just like so obvious because then like you have an NFL fan who's experienced and knows what a good quarterback looks like, and if you watch his NFL game tape, like he was never good. Like his release literally took like 35 seconds to like he took 35 seconds to throw the ball every time. And he had that one cool play to Demaryius Thomas.
That's true. Demaryius Thomas, legend, rest in peace. But I feel like Tim Tebow was kind of a case study for the NFL. Like, it kind of started to tell people that what works in college doesn't work like long term, or in the like that doesn't directly translate because they're not the same game. The scouts are looking at college games for something different than what coaches of college teams are looking for. They're looking to win. The coaches are trying to win. They're trying to play their game. Whereas scouts are trying to look at and analyze that game into what can translate to their game, which is a little bit like it sounds confusing, but they're just trying to find measurables and things in these players that they can like translate and make work in the NFL. Because as we're saying, the NFL and college are so totally different. They're played completely different ways that from an analyzing perspective, you just can't look at success as a measurement. It just can't be in there at all because it's a completely different game. It's like saying if somebody is good at water polo and somebody's good at, I don't know, what's the soccer. Like they're different games. There are things that you can translate, but they're different games.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, Tim Tebow should have just been an obvious example to NFL. That's the thing, though. Like, if I was getting paid to do this, like as an NFL scout, like how do you not know that? The prime example of that is Johnny Manziel going like, what do you go, like 16th or something?
Tim Tebow was before. I feel like there were some, and it was only the Browns that didn't learn because the Browns were the ones that picked Manziel. But I feel like at that time, Johnny Manziel probably had Tim Tebow not already gone in. Johnny Manziel probably would have gone a little higher, in my opinion.
I think a lot of it with Johnny Manziel came down to just he was such an asshole too.
Yeah, like well, then again, Baker was the Johnny Manziel level asshole and went number 1 overall.
Yeah, but it was a little different. Johnny Manziel's literally having a documentary coming out, and I'm gonna watch it. And he was such a big bust in the NFL. But if Baker Mayfield had a documentary, I would never watch that.
That Johnny Manziel documentary is him saying that he is broke and he needs some money because that football career did not pay for the lifestyle he thought it would. Same thing with the XFL career that he's got going on right now. Johnny
it's not
Manziel,
even XFL. It's the
player controlled league.
Yeah.
The fan controlled league. I'm sorry. That's embarrassing.
And my 10-year-old self, like I was rooting for Johnny Manziel so hard.
Johnny was like the guy.
Yeah, like everyone, you wanted to be Johnny Manziel, but like again, like even if you're the Browns, like how do you not notice that literally all this guy is doing is throwing a deep ball and saying "fuck it" and throwing it to Mike Evans every single play?
Yeah, and it's funny because there were smart teams. Mike Evans got drafted before Johnny Manziel, but the Browns were not one of those smart teams. That's just so. Only the Browns could have made that pick. If they did not take him, I'm fairly convinced he would have just fallen and would have just kept going to like kind of like what we saw with Malik Willis this year, who's a much different player. They're not comparable, but I feel like those two situations could have been fairly similar.
Do you remember all of those takes when like he got cut from the Browns and everyone was like, the Patriots should pick him up, show him the Patriot way? Like imagine Johnny Manziel. Like I literally think he would have got cut probably 2 weeks into it, not talent-wise. He would have been late to practice, like 2 times. And like Bill Belichick would have been like, go fuck yourself. Like I am not dealing with you. And I think that's just so funny. Like, but as you said, he probably would have fallen because it was like the Jaguars that year. I think there's 3 teams that were going to draft him. It was the Jaguars, the Browns, and
the Pats. I forget it was the Pats.
The Pats. Yeah,
at 21. There was talks about them drafting him at 21. And that was never gonna happen, but Didn't,
It would have been.
obviously.
That would have been, man. Like, I'm gonna be honest. That would have been pretty cool, though. It wouldn't have worked, but like, imagine Tom Brady and Johnny Manziel. Imagine Tom Brady, his like robot self, like his super genius football self, talking to Johnny Manziel, and Manziel would just kind of like. That would have been like a meme. Like if like
Imagine
anything.
a Brady Manziel, and it couldn't have happened, but a Brady Manziel Garoppolo QB room, or like a Brady Manziel Brissett. Just like such a weird. Imagine just looking at that picture. It'd be strange.
It would have not been good either.
Oh, anything with any quarterback room with Tom Brady in it is fine.
Well, though, it would have not been. I could literally see like Johnny Manziel like posting on if this happened like today. I'm saying like not back. I mean, I guess it could have been back then too, but I could literally like see him tweet it. Yeah, he'd be like tweeting like this motherfucker Tom, like like all up in my shit. Like he was like just something stupid. I could just like see it, but like, it would have been funny to watch. But enough with Johnny Manziel. But he'll always be in my
get with Giselle or something.
I don't doubt it. I mean, do you follow Johnny Manziel? You follow the guy on Instagram? Literally, it's like lives like a fucking superstar still. So I mean, he lives the Instagram life.
In my opinion, he lives like a high school like peak guy. Like he lives like one of those guys that peaked in high school. Like that's what he looks like to me. Well, he peaked in college. He was a friend.
I mean, have you ever watched his this is the last time I said Johnny Manziel, but like, have you ever watched his like big high school game that he got on the board with? He was like so respectful and like blah, blah, like he was like a nice guy, like always saying thank you to my parents. And then like I saw this thing and it was like after Johnny Manziel got banned for like another thing real quick. College bans are so funny because they'll like ban somebody for like a half, and Johnny Manziel was banned for like a half. He came back the second half after he got in trouble for signing illegal autographs and selling them, but he literally was going like this to the defense. Like it would have just been so cool if a guy like that was good in the NFL. But anyway, I'm still rooting on Johnny comeback season, but
yeah, I think we're far past that.
Yeah, so there'll be another guy who's kind of not in the same realm. He's just a jerk and like was never good in even college football. Spencer Radler. Like remember when this guy was supposed to be like he was having the next Patrick Mahomes comparisons. He was always insane the Madden rebuilds. Like it was just like all of that. And he's South Carolina now. So like I don't know how he's doing, to be honest. I haven't checked up on it, but that's just funny to me too. Just like the amount of guys who get so much hype and they're supposed to be like this guy, like he's going to be so good, and then they're not, and it's just kind of funny.
We haven't. Rattler has not gotten out of college. A lot of times, like we were just saying, you're looking for guys with talent, like with the measurables. You're not trying to see guys winning college games. You're trying to see guys with the measurables. He's a guy who may or may not have them. I have not done a lot of looking into Spencer Rattler. I'm not a huge South Carolina fan. So yeah. He could eventually be a good player, but from what I know, he's got some off the field issues, and that is something that doesn't. What are the stats? This is
just before we like talk about maybe he's good. 603 yards, 2 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, and a 41.7 QBR.
I'm not saying maybe he's good. I'm saying I'm not saying anything if I haven't taken a look at the guy, which I have
he just has like. He's pretty ugly too, so like he just has that going for him too.
All right,
but
yeah,
he's a dick too. I mean, I don't know if you ever watched his he was on this like Netflix show. I forgot what it was, but it was like about all the high school quarterbacks.
Oh yeah.
Everybody hated him.
He was so like that.
He has nothing. He has nothing going for him.
None of the 3 quarterbacks that were on that ended up being good. I know Jake Fromm was one of them.
Jake Fromm. Him and AJ McCarron are the same person though?
Yep, exactly, dude. Exact same person. I want to kind of reel us back from college football because we've got to get out of here fairly soon or my laptop's going to die. I want to talk about Jeffrey Simmons. He is absolutely incredible. He is the best defensive tackle in football, not named Aaron Donald.
And I saw a lot of people saying Casey Hayward clears him, which is just not true.
Cam Hayward.
Cam Hayward, excuse me, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Cam Hayward's great. He's a Hall of Famer, but nope, Not even close to Jeffrey Simmons. Not right now. He's an athletic freak. The things that he does at defensive tackle, he looks like he's probably the most athletic defensive tackle too, which is just so impressive. Like he is a whole run defense in himself. That's why I like to play. They have those kind of like key players, but the thing that I was really banking on with them that isn't seeming to be true is Derrick Henry being the same guy that he was, still being the king.
Slow.
He looked a step slow. He looked like he did not have it. And I've been on record saying I think that Derrick Henry is just one of those guys that just is great for their whole career. I mean, you look at Marshawn Lynch, he was putting up 1,500 yards and 17 touchdowns when he was 28. You look at all these guys when they were 28, which is what Derrick Henry is now. All the all-time great running backs like LT, Adrian Peterson, they were in their prime at 28 years old, which is what I thought King Henry was. I thought Derrick Henry was on that level, and maybe he is. But based off of week one, and if that's the way that he's going to perform throughout the season, we might start watching the decline of Derrick Henry right now, which is he a Hall of Famer if he starts declining now?
See, I don't want to give any take on this, namely because he's on my fantasy team, and I don't want to be biased. But not from a bias standpoint. Even with like a guy like Alvin Kamara, we've seen how great they could be, and like that's one thing I feel like Alvin Kamara especially gets like on just like Twitter, like people will just like bring up like certain advanced stats and be like, this is why Alvin Kamara sucks, when like Alvin Kamara does not suck. I don't think either of them suck. I'm not going to rate them. I'm not going to talk about either of their downfalls yet because it's only been 1 week. But the one thing with Derrick Henry, I mean, I know he's going against probably the best top 2 defense in the league this week. He's playing Buffalo. But if he has a decent week this week, I'm not saying he has to be a Derrick Henry performance, but a decent week, I'm not worried or I'm not concerned. I think he did look slow. Like you got to say that, but I'm not judging everything based off of 1 week. But he definitely looks slow. He had like 3 yards per carry. Like he literally like it was bad, and then he got like rocked. I
have never seen Derrick Henry get hit that hard, and for it to be Tate Crowder to lay that hit. Tate Crowder is not the guy that should be hitting Derrick Henry like that. That is just kind of the thing that. Damn,
if we're talking about best hits though, that Derwin James hit yesterday, holy fuck!
Oh yeah,
like,
damn it, that cost me 7 points, man.
Like holy shit, that was insane, and he just rocked him. And then the funny thing
is,
that play
bothered me. Can we stop talking about that play?
This is the last thing I'm gonna say.
There's just 7 points right away from my face there.
Sorry, I didn't even mean to do that to you, but Jason Kelce and Travis Kelce have like a podcast now, which is like awesome. But like literally last week, Travis Kelce was like, one of my favorite players to watch in the game, Derwin James, but literally he's like my least favorite player to play against, and he slams him on the ground. And like ever since I've always been like a big Derwin James guy, but like especially ever since I saw that one interview with him and Ryan Clark, who I still don't know like why he's gets as good of a rap as he does, but because he's annoying to me, but he literally was just saying like Hunter Renfrow sucked and like all of that, and Derwin James straight up was like, what are you saying? Like you make no sense. And like I always gonna respect that, especially in like I feel like the NFL, it's like a lot of guys will never give another guy like credit unless he's on your team or like he was on your team or he was your former teammate. And I just find that like cool that Derwin James gives credit to people. He's like, this guy's a pretty badass, and I'm gonna try to stop him. I think that's just cool because he could have just went along with it and been like, yeah, he sucks, like he's overrated. He's not a good route runner. When in reality, we all know Hunter Renfrow is one of the best route runners in the game.
Yeah. On the topic of that game, I wanted to, because we're starting to wrap up here. I want to talk about Herbert real quick because I see the meme going around a lot right now of the X-ray and there's like 3 broken ribs and then the dog in like he's got the dog in him, right? Okay. Yeah, Justin Herbert is a very incredibly talented quarterback, and what he did showed a lot of heart last night, going back out there while hurt. But the one issue I've had with Justin Herbert his entire career is that he fades away from throws, especially in big situations. He fades away, and he's got incredible arm talent, so that makes a lot of his throws look a lot better than they could be if he were to just make it a routine play. And he's got the arm talent to do it, to fade away and make that kind of a play. But the issue is when it comes down to it, it won't always work. And when the when the situation is such a huge situation like that last play of the game or one of the last plays of the game where he threw the 99-yard pick six, you can't fade away from the throw. You have to step into the throw. And he does it so often. It feels like just the difference between Justin Herbert, Josh Allen, and Patrick Mahomes is that Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes lay their body on the line. I understand it's scary for players and for fans to see, but that's what elevates them to be the top tier in the league. And I see Justin Herbert just already put into there just because he's on the same arm level as those guys. But that's not exactly what it takes. It doesn't just take being the arm talent, because I 100% agree as far as pure arm talent and throwing the football and reading the line and reading the defense, Josh Allen, Justin Herbert, Patrick Mahomes are all on the exact same level. But when it comes down to just having that in him to step into the big throw, take the hit, and make the play, Justin Herbert doesn't do that, and he hasn't done that to this point in his career. All the time we see him just not take the hit. On the play where he obviously was hurt and he threw the ball away, it was 3rd down and 1. There was not a player in front of him for 5-10 yards, and he had a very easy 1st down, and he could have just walked out of bounds. I understand he was hurt, but he just spiked the football in front of him. Like, you're not seeing Andrew Luck do that. You're not seeing Patrick Mahomes do that. You're not seeing Josh Allen. You won't see Tom Brady do that. It's just a little bit of that extra that you need out of Justin Herbert that you don't get, which is why I have such a hard time evaluating him, because we haven't seen him in those huge pressure situations. He's never made the playoffs. We evaluate quarterbacks so much off of playoffs. We've never seen it with the guy. So how are we going to evaluate him with that? I'm okay with saying he's as talented with throwing the football as those guys, but I will not put him on the same level as those guys as a quarterback yet.
Yeah, I don't think he's the same level. I think Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes are on their own level, I think, because they just have everything. They have the athleticism, they have the arm, they have everything. But the one thing that I just wanted to point out with Patrick Mahomes yesterday, in this whole game, Chargers should have won this game. He had 2 interceptions called back, and they were both bullshit. Both of them. The Asante Samuel one, that was a catch. I rewatched and literally what's the NFL thing, and it was a catch. And then the Callahan one, I don't know if you saw that, but they called it a push off. Was not even involved in the play, and he was intercepted on that play, and the Chiefs went down and scored on that drive. So I just think no one's really talking about that. The Chargers definitely should have won that game yesterday, and those 2 picks really just were the reason why. But with Justin Herbert, I do agree with you. And the one thing that's really funny about this interception, Lombardi literally holds him back too. He's very conservative, the Chargers offensive coordinator, and he threw that interception on 1st and goal on the 5. Why are you not running the ball? Why aren't you playing it safe? That was stupid. That was stupid. I think so. And that's a very risky throw to make. It was a dumb throw too, absolutely dumb. He threw it in triple coverage, double coverage.
To Gerald Everett, who was obviously gassed. He called for a substitution at the beginning of the play. The coaches told him to stay on the field, which is absolutely ridiculous in that situation. I understand you have Trey McKitty, a rookie, behind him, but he's calling for a sub. You've got to sub him out. And then in that situation, big time.
And exactly. And in that situation, if he wants to get subbed out for one play, change the play calling, you have 3 more downs to do it. Another thing, you have Justin Herbert, who I think he's 4 or 5 right now, to be honest. But the amount of times that they wouldn't go on it, I think they had 2 or 3 4th and 2s and less, and they didn't go for it. And you have this powerful offense that's supposed to be top 5 this year. Go for it. I think the Chiefs' offense is fantastic. I don't think their defense is that great. They got lucky on that one intercept. Not lucky, but it was in the great spot on that one pick 6. And I'm going to be honest. I still think the Chargers are the better team in this division. I think not Josh Allen. I think Justin Herbert played better than Patrick Mahomes yesterday. Straight up, he had a lot of things go his way. Patrick Mahomes, and I love Patrick Mahomes. He's my pick to win MVP this year, but he didn't have a great game. Justin Herbert, other than that one interception, had an excellent game. He had 300+ yards. He had 2 interceptions, and he made one dumbass play.
To say Justin Herbert had a better game than Patrick Mahomes is not wrong, But to say that the Chiefs are going to be the better team the Chargers are going to be the better team than the Chiefs this season, I think is wrong, because I feel like Patrick Mahomes, he was not better last night, but he will be a better quarterback for the entirety of the season. Like Patrick Mahomes, I believe we just made a post about this on our Instagram. He's both of our MVP picks. Both of us expect this guy to win MVP. I don't see a way that this Chiefs offense doesn't finish in the top 3, top 5, top 3. They're not finishing below 3. And I don't see a way that this defense isn't improved over last season, especially because they're starting to get some guys back. They've got they added Justin Reed. I didn't think Tyrann Mathieu played all that well for them last season. They added George Karlaftis. They added Nick Duffy. They added a bunch of players onto this defense that can help improve. And I really think we're going to see a new version of the Chiefs this season and a better version of the Chiefs. And the Chargers still have a lot of ifs for me. And but I feel like they could have lost both of their opening games, could have gone either way. And those are 2 divisional games, and they haven't really moved me much yet.
Yeah, but if you're talking about defense, and we're talking about the 2 interceptions that got called back, if they stay on the field, the Chiefs don't score on 2 drives.
If.
But like, it was very, very clear that they were both interceptions. So like, that's not going to happen.
I don't know. I disagree on the Samuel one. That ball hit the ground, but
he had control on the way down though. So it counts.
I didn't get to see the Callahan one, unfortunately, but I do disagree on the Samuel catch. I don't think that should have been a catch, but I get where you're coming from with that. We have just one. My laptop is fairly close to dead, but there's just one more game that we have to talk about here. The Steelers-Bengals. Burrow turned the ball over 5 times, and they should have won that game on 2 separate occasions.
Okay.
What's your takeaway from this game?
I'm going to be honest. I don't really have a takeaway my takeaway on the Bengals is they're going to be all right. Like, I think people are overreacting to that, but my overall big take from this game is the Steelers are not good. Like, you have 5 turnovers and you cannot win the game. Minka Fitzpatrick played his ass off. Minka Fitzpatrick looked like the best safety in the league, played his ass off. There was 5 turnovers and you lost the game. Or no, that's not what I mean. You barely won the game. That's what I meant. But like, it was crazy, you know? I feel like on a lot of, they should have lost the game, but it's just funny. You had literally 5 turnovers and you should have lost the game. Like, the offense, my whole point is the offense is horrible.
They did nothing to win the game. The Bengals lost it just by having their long snapper be hurt. They had 2 separate kicks to win the game, and they just couldn't hit them without a long snapper because the ball was fumbled both times off the snap. Like, Evan McPherson, Money McPherson is getting a lot of hate right now.
I was just going to say that. Yeah.
No reason. It was not his fault. His job was not the same as it normally is, and that's so horrible for a kicker. But my big takeaway from this game is, bless his heart, Mitch Trubisky, not a good quarterback.
No, I
love the guy. I
love
the guy.
But he's
not a good quarterback.
The thing that I was watching it, his touchdown pass to Najee Harris, I was like, that was disgusting how ugly that was. And like, he's not good. I love him though. He's funny. So like, that's really it for my Steelers Bengals takes. I still think Jamar Chase is him. And we'll see what Higgins does when he comes back after literally like getting his brain smashed in. But I'm really excited for this week. We got a lot of good games coming up, actually. I think last week there were a lot of games that were kind of predictable. But I went 7 on 10 on my picks, actually. So I actually got the ones I got wrong were the Titans.
You went 3 for 2 on the podcast. I went 2 for 3. So that's our record right now on our picks.
Wait, 3 for 2.
Yeah. I don't remember exactly what they were. We picked 5 games each.
Oh, I thought you said 3 for 2. Yeah, I got the Titans wrong, but I made a parlay and I went 7 for 10. I got the Titans wrong. I got the Bengals wrong, and the 49ers.
Yeah,
that was it. So like, I'm not really even giving myself a slap on the wrist. So I mean, I'm really excited for this week. There's a lot of really more competitive games that are kind of a toss-up, and I'm really excited. This is how we're gonna wrap up. Give me your 3 locks. We'll do this every week.
We are gonna have to put off on this because I'm on 1% here.
All right, you're
and I
good.
don't want to lose the recording.
Yeah, your computer's dying. All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you next week. Make sure to follow us on all socials at CCSN Sports. Thank you guys so much. Have a great day.